Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suleman. I'm one of the co-founders of CareHires. CareHires was founded a few years ago by Nizam and I. My background is in the technology space, having founded a few tech startups in the past. And Nizam's background in the care sector made this a great fit for us to really try and provide a revolutionary service with the use of technology in the care sector. Ian Mattioli joined us a few years ago as one of our first investors and the chairman of the board. And I'm joined here today with Ian to have a discussion around the journey of CareHires and the growth going forward. Okay. Ian, I'd love to hear a bit about your background and how you kind of got involved in helping startups, because we met a few years ago at a charity lunch. So it'd be good to understand a little bit more about how you kind of got involved and why you got involved in helping startups.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. And as you know, I love helping. You know, business to me is about helping people. And I've always found in business, if you've got a good business with a good idea, the money side of it looks after itself. So just make sure your foundation is good, make sure you're dealing in the right areas, and then make sure you surround yourself with great people. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's the real key, I think. You know, just surround yourself with people who are passionate. Yeah, very interesting. And when I first approached you with the idea of CareHires, you were definitely interested in the kind of social care sector and the tech kind of side. And from that, you brought on a few clients that are members of our board that were very interested in the space that we were trying to get into. What attracted you into that sector and the technology kind of aspect? I think when you look back through most successful businesses, business people's careers, there's always a catalyst for doing something, and for me it was quite straightforward. My father needed some care, so you know you set about this world, and it was quite baffling, and we found a great care home for him eventually, and you know it's in a great location, purpose built, really good specification. But the problem was the people. The people all really were caring, but there wasn't quite enough of them sometimes. So, you know, the only complaint that anybody ever made, not from us, they were a bit understaffed. So, you know, that's sort of, you start to put two and two together and think, well, why is that? We'd had quite a few clients over the years who were in the care hire business, or care business, and again all of their issues revolved around staffing. You know, it's a bit like being a builder. If you can make sure you can get the right person at the right time in the right place, success. Absolutely. And really that's what CareHires is. You know, a business which makes sure the right person gets to the right place to deliver the caring. You know, initially the concept was, can we do that internally ourselves? Yeah, it was. You know, hire our own people, find our own people, train our own people, get them onto the books. But in reality, there was a group of businesses called agencies already out there, wasn't there? So the care homes needed people. You've got this sort of agency set up. So as CareHires developed, we became a SaaS solution. We did. And that is really sort of, you know, innovative thinking around why business works. So, you know, we started out with a plan, we refined it, and you end up in a good space. Absolutely. I think Ian, when we started CareHires, you always kind of said to Nizam and I, you know, don't be scared, the model will change, you will end up pivoting till you try and get to the right model. And that's kind of come true in our journey with CareHires. We've kind of seen that from your experience. It was always advised to us at the start, but I think one thing we did is we were not scared to change early, but we tried things until we found what worked well. How you know, now obviously that benefits agencies across the country as well as care homes, but from your experience, what's your thoughts on businesses that pivot in that type of way until they find the right balance? I mean, first off, I've never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I'm pretty good at enterprise, and there is a real subtle difference. So good enterprises, I think, they think a lot, great, But from thinking, we move into planning. Sometimes we have to go back, once we're in planning, back into thinking, because it might not be working out at that stage. So many people never think, they just plan. But once you've done your planning, you've got to execute.
Absolutely.
And of course, the problem in the world is most people don't think, they don't plan, they just execute.
Yeah.
You need to combine those three things together in order to start out in business, for sure. And once you've done that, what you then need to do is review. A lot of people just set out with an idea and think it's going to work. You know, it's some of my best ever decisions have been when I've changed course. It baffles some people because sometimes, you know, 2 weeks ago we had a plan and we're changing it 2 weeks later. But boy, oh boy, you've got to change quickly, because if it's not working, you try something else. You know, you've got to think, plan, execute, review.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with what we're doing now at Care Highs, it's definitely taking ground within the care home sector with the solutions that we're offering, the technology aspect of it, the rota systems, the way they're recruiting, the ability to actually see things more transparently and be able to do that all in real time. What's your thoughts on the role we're playing in the operational efficiencies we're now providing across care homes and agencies?
Again, based on my experience of care homes, they can only operate if the right people are in the right place at the right time. So it's very, very highly regulated, and they need that expertise at whatever level. And basically, Care Hires has become the interface between the care home and the agencies who are supplying the people. So it's actually quite logical. You know, what that has led on to is the creation of other things. Well, you know, that's good business. A rota system, you know, a rota system, making sure the right person of the right quality is at the right time in the right place, needs a rota. You know, so many smaller care homes, so many smaller agencies simply do that via spreadsheets which don't talk to each other. Surely the solution is one rota system that they can both work to and operate from. You know, and Care Hires being a tech business, it can support that, it can develop it, and it can grow it. You know, not many people can do that.
No, absolutely.
You know, we have moved our tech significantly on with some quite key developments over the last few months, haven't we?
Absolutely, we have indeed. And I think a lot of that comes down to what you kind of said to Nizaman at the start, which is the company culture we kind of developed is key. Bringing in the right people with the right ethics, morals, and most importantly, I think it's been really useful with the different backgrounds the founding team kind of has. My background is more IT, Nizam's background is more care. How do you think that's taken a difference in the culture that we've shaped and the resources we've been able to bring on?
Again, for me, it's not rocket science, and you can apply this to any business. There is a requirement in a business to be expert. So, you know, you can apply that to the people who own the care homes, to the agencies, to the workers who are actually providing the care. So being expert is key. But it's not the only thing. You've got to be passionate about what you do. You know, this is a little bit involved, what I'm about to say, but, you know, if you break down your life into thirds, we're asleep a third of it.
Very true.
You know, so we're awake the other 2/3, and for most of us, myself included, we have to work one of those thirds because that's how we live, that's how we develop. So, you know, bearing in mind that third is now 50% of the time that we're awake. Make sure you enjoy it. So, you know, all businesses have got to be enjoyed.
I agree.
And that's what we've really tried to develop with the Care Hires sort of process. You know, we have some really good, fascinating individuals who founded the business, yourself and Niz. We have some great people around the board with a massive wealth of experience. You know, we all try to put in. We don't, you know, say, well, I know best. So it's a collegiate team trying to work out the solutions.
Absolutely.
We've got great people in the offices who really care about the job. We've seen massive improvements in them over the last few months because the environment and the culture is right.
Absolutely.
If you get the culture right, people can be passionate about what they do.
Yes, I agree with you. So what was it about Care Hires that caught your attention at the beginning to say, actually, I want to be involved in this and bring on some of my clients to be part of the company's early stage and growth in what we're doing here?
The early stage investment is always a high risk.
Yes, indeed.
If you look at an investment pyramid, risk at the top, safety at the bottom. Not that you can ever have perhaps a safe investment. The risk at the top has got to be relatively small, and history tells us you need to do a few of them because some will get overtaken by technology, often through no fault of the businesses. So you need a mixture, but this one really stood out because of the immediate need I could see through existing clients and the experience I had with my father. So you put those two together and you say, well, actually there's business here. And that's how I've always operated. If we can do it ourselves, well, let's give it a go. Absolutely. And I think there's not many people who are enterprises who can actually get a business to operate well. You often find an entrepreneur doesn't run the business long term because the disciplines required are very different.
Exactly.
So we've seen that time and time again. So the team we brought in was really a team that can take this business to the next stages. And that is coming to fruition. It is. We're a tech business, but we're just about profitable.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have revenue.
Yes.
We don't just have ideas.
Yes.
So that's how I think we've been able to combine and put together a business proposition, which is a business proposition, not just a series of ideas, which might come off at some stage in the future. This is very real, and it will happen because we've got all the support of the successful people behind us.
Absolutely, and it says a lot about that because we've gone from just an idea to now processing over 1 million hours a month with 9,000 workers on the platform. So it shows the significant kind of growth we've kind of had. But how do you, as someone probably that gets, a lot of different startups that come to you, been quite involved with the progress of Care Hires and with Niz and I, how do you kind of measure this from a success aspect, from not only an investment side, but what you're also giving to the company? Because your experience and expertise of being able to add the value being able to give us has really allowed us to have that scalability and the experience that's allowed us to give that.
But for me, again, I break it down into, is it a good outcome for, and in this case, the client is the person who needs care. And it's got to be, because we're making sure the right person is in the right place at the right time, so that they can get the care that is needed.
Absolutely.
And we're making it easier at the agency side and the care home side to make sure that happens as efficiently as possible without sort of, the care home paying too much and the agency getting swamped under legislative paperwork.
Absolutely. And you always kind of said to me at the start of this journey, it's always about the people, never about the idea. And I think that's been very true. And what I've also seen
not quite,
but it's actually that I think our relationship and our working has evolved over time, and obviously working on various things together. But how do you think, as time goes by as entrepreneurs, things progress more and the way of working gets better as well?
For a business to work and operate well, the idea has got to work. So once you've thought that through, as I said, think, plan, you move into this planning phase. Can we actually now get it to work? Can we plan for it to happen? A lot of people, get to that stage, but then are too afraid to execute. So, having a group of people actually having the support of the government, because you know a lot of investors who invest in startups, you know, they do get quite a lot of tax relief, which is absolutely 100% fair.
Yes.
Because those investors are taking risk.
Yeah.
But you know, as an investor myself, it doesn't half help. You know, good idea, good plan, good people, with the ability to then get some tax relief on your investment. You know, and at the end of all of that, a lot of these businesses really go forward.
It's very true.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
It's very true, and we know that the importance of the SEIS and the EIS schemes for us has given us the ability to achieve that scale in not only the early stages, but as we're now growing a bit as well.
A problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know you just used the phrase again, I'm an enterpriser by the way, is they go from idea to idea to idea.
Yeah.
At Care Hires, this business is working.
Yes.
You know, it will be a fundamental. This business is an operational business, not an ideas business.
Very true.
We can all have ideas. You know, my business partner at Mattioli Woods, you know, Bob, he always used to aim for the stars. And I used to say, Bob, you carry on aiming for the stars, I'll just land you on the moon. Because there's not that many people who have actually landed on the moon still.
Yeah, that's very true.
But it's achievable because it's already been done.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree.
And that's the difference, I think, between an entrepreneur and an enterpriser.
Okay.
It's like we can all have ideas, but can you convert them into a business?
Yeah.
And you know, with the people we've got around us, Robert, Mark, Yazin, you know, we're all doers.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you. And what is your current what's your current thoughts on the state of the current social care sector, the challenges, the opportunities, not only from the sector itself, but from an investor's perspective?
I mean, if we look at the social sort of side first, it's massively complex, isn't it? People are living longer and longer and longer, and often with poorer and poorer health.
Yeah.
So, you know, unfortunately, that needs resolving.
Yeah.
And I think the advances in medicine is helping. Certainly the advances in diet is helping. So people are living better, longer. That is a good outcome.
Absolutely.
Because there's less care than needed. But where care is needed, it needs to have a purpose. You know, looking after people in their final months, couple of years, needs to be done well.
So Ian, how do you think Care Hires stacks up against other companies within this kind of sector? Because everyone's doing something a little bit different. We've come at it more from articulating the efficiencies with the use of technology. What's your thoughts on that?
Again, I get back to being an enterpriser. Part of the planning is to actually look at the future demographic of people who might need care, set against the number of care homes, set against the number of agencies, set against the deficit. You know, so when we were in a board meeting, you know, they're all the questions I continue to ask.
It is.
And you know, there's lots of agencies, there's lots of care homes.
Yeah.
But what is there, 2.5 million people in the middle missing who could be carers but are not being found? So therefore we've actually got to make it more attractive, and part of what Care Hires will be doing is making it more attractive, because if we can actually smooth the process, the people in the middle, the carers, can actually get paid a bit more.
Agree more.
But it doesn't cost either side, because they're already paying for it in their inefficiency, you could argue.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you, Ian.
So demographic is really key, understanding the market, and then being prepared to network and get your name around. Absolutely. You know, but that's like any business. You know, I've seen so many people over the years who have had great ideas, but never plan, never execute. And you know, equally, I've seen some businesses who never thought, never planned, and have tried to execute too early. And you know, they think they've got a great business, but you know, It's just a group of business people getting together and having a meeting themselves. There's no operational business underneath it. So the combination of that, which I'd probably drive people to distraction, as you know, because that operational side is so key.
I understand. And I think that focus aspect is very key. And that's what we've seen in the growth of Care Highs. It's very much been around, we've agreed the plan, let's now focus on the execution and build that execution plan before we come up with any new ideas.
Well, it makes it very investable as well, because there is that underlying operational business. And the demographics are good, so it can grow exponentially. So when you combine all of that together, I know you have a big stake, the investors have a big stake, and we've started to bring in third-party investors, which is really good, because that's how a business grows and develops.
Absolutely. And I think that's very important as well, by bringing on the right investors, because I remember after we did the seed kind of round and we were looking for that growth capital, we had a lot of offers and opportunities to take VCT money and different types of investors, but we were very key, it was very clear from your experience, it was let's make sure we find the right investor. And when we were in discussions with West Hill, it was always about the morals of the business, the team, and very much making sure we also felt from their side that they were the right investor for us. And I think that was quite key, and we found that because having someone like West Hill now part of the journey, they have been very supportive investors, and it was always a message from you which was, let's not rush the aspect of obtaining funding, but making sure we have a good underlying business under it. But when we do come to that part in finding the right investor, what's your thoughts and comments to anyone else out there that's kind of looking for funding or scaling up their business?
I mean, my main business activity, Mattioli Woods PLC, is a wealth manager. So we probably understand more than anybody the concept of looking after other people's money. And you have to do that remarkably responsibly. And it's a word that we've not used in this sort of discussion as yet, but it's trust.
Very true.
Both sides of the equation, the client and the advisor, have got to trust each other. They've got to have empathy. The advisor has got to be expert, he's got to be passionate. The client, he's not going to be as expert, but he will be passionate. So we've tried to bring together in Care Highs the right investors, which is a group of individual investors, plus I always get the name wrong, West Hill Capital, who came on board, good people to work with.
Absolutely,
because they've enabled us to get on.
Yes,
they know, because of all the things that we do. We've always had monthly board meetings. We've always had monthly accounts. So the oversight and the governance is really key. Because as soon as you bring a third party investor, that's what you need. You can't say, well, my accounts are being done in 3 months' time, or the minutes to the board meeting we've only had 2, and one of them was 6 months ago, still haven't got the minutes. Our technology is pretty smart, isn't it?
It is.
We have a board meeting
within an hour,
in minutes.
Absolutely.
Because that's the best way. Then everybody knows where they are. So, the answer is our investors can trust us, because we're on a journey, it's a set journey. We govern well, we've got good oversight, and that enables us to grow and develop.
Absolutely. A little bit about the team side, Ian, because obviously we have offices in Sri Lanka, we have offices in the UK, we've attracted talent from various places. Obviously COVID has enabled more remote type of working now as well. How do you think this has impacted our growth and the dynamics of the team?
You need a good team, but what we have found with COVID, it doesn't necessarily need to be in one location. And a lot of people are saying, well, we need to get everybody back to work in one location. I'm not actually sure that's right, and that's quite controversial. There's a lot of offices, but they we can do business differently. if there is good support in Sri Lanka, if we are able to access the technology, make sure the technology is secure, make sure it's safe, because there's a lot of data sort of moving. But you know, what I've seen, we've been able to build systems and structures by using the Sri Lankan IT team like we wouldn't be able to over here.
Yeah. And we've developed that further because now we've got operations personnel out there, we've got, you know, finance out there. So we have been scaling that side of our international kind of presence.
Yeah.
So what would you say to any startups that are facing challenges in obtaining resource and, you know, growing a team? Is because we found that having that hybrid approach and taking talent from different places has been a huge benefit to us, but something that's quite scary to other startups that are probably doing this for the first time, or companies going into this space. So.
Again, I'm going to sort of probably go back a couple of steps. It's like anybody in a startup, make sure the idea works. Think, plan, don't just execute. That is really key, because everything else will fall into place. Because people who start up businesses are generally passionate about what they do. You can't set up a business, most businesses these days are complex, without being experts. I have seen a few people try to set things up in my time where they believe they're experts, and you try to avoid those. But that can all be established with diligence, you know, good questioning, meetings, getting face to face, whether that's in person or screen to screen, it doesn't really matter. And then just keeping on it. You know, a lot of people forget about, you know, some of the things they want to do because their life sort of takes them over. You've always got to bring it back down. You know, run your diary well. Make sure you get those board meetings in.
Very important.
Not everybody, you know, in a startup, you know, occasionally one board member might not be able to attend. That's okay, because the minutes are... Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, these days with technology, you could technically record it. See what happens.
Yeah, it's very true.
So, you know, but a lot of people are scared to give it a go. And, you know, one of the things I would say is give it a go. You know, when Bob Woods and I set up Mattioli Woods, you know, we had 6 children between us under 7 years of age. Thankfully, 4 of them were Bob's. That's only 2 mine. But a lot of people thought we were being irresponsible. You know, it's like, you know, how could you? You know, you've got perfectly good jobs elsewhere, and you're throwing all that up to set up a business in a converted residential garage. You know, they thought we were mad. You know, but they're the things you've got to be prepared to do. You know, I ran the electrics. I'm not an electrician. You know, but I think I got the Philips book of DIY and ran the electrics round. The first thing that we bought, because in business you should have everything you need and nothing you don't need. So, you know, these are some of the parameters. The first thing we bought was a good telephone system. So people ringing into the garage did not realise they were ringing into a garage.
Brilliant.
You know, brilliant. So, but you know, these days, one of my lasting memories about the garage was it was cold. It was so it got into your bones.
Oh gosh.
You know, so you know, when you get a youngster complaining about the air conditioning, it's like, mate, just
if only
just
you knew.
Behave. Just behave. It was cold in that garage.
I can imagine. Ian, can you share your thoughts on the future of care hires and the market? What's your overall thoughts on this space and what we're doing?
Well, this is an expanding business in an expanding market. It has to be. The way things are done are, well, they need changing for it to be efficient. So, you know, like I said, you know, there is enough money in the system for the agencies to earn really, really well, for the care homes to earn really, really well, and at the same time be very respectful of the people who are actually doing the caring. And what Care Hires does, it ring fences those three and protects them. Absolutely. So therefore there should be an uplift and profitability on all three of those aspects, which is, for me, fantastic. It can't get much better than that in a business.
I agree with you on that.
So, care hires, the opportunity is great. Like all businesses, we can do a bit more because we're designed to do more. So, we're still very much at the beginning, but the market demographic is huge.
Couldn't agree more with you.
We're just looking at the UK at the moment.
We are.
But, it's happening internationally.
Absolutely.
So many of the developed nations, and I'm not sure if that is a word you should use anymore because we're all developed, a lot of the nations are in this situation where their population is ageing.
Yeah.
So, you've not got to be a rocket science to work out more people need care.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Ian, from your side, being a successful entrepreneur yourself, anyone that's out there looking to start an organisation or go into the startup space, what kind of message would you give to entrepreneurs out there?
Sit next to somebody who doesn't call me an entrepreneur.
That's very true. Yeah.
I'm a good enterpriser.
And I think that's something I think that's important, though, right? It's very important.
We all need entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
I'm great at landing on the moon. Because it's already been done, so I know a bit of the technology. Yeah. I can find a way through.
Absolutely.
I actually need the entrepreneurial spark for somebody to say, well, actually, we can do this, and then I can do what I do, which is slightly different.
And I think that's very important because I think if I look at it from my perspective, I think I'm probably come up with the ideas, know how we've got to get there, but then it's bringing on people that have a different skill set, more of the enterprising skill set or different type of skill set to then help us picture that and how we implement and then execute that. Is that a fair comment that as you're starting a startup, you do need to have diverse skill sets to make sure you put all the pieces of the jigsaw together?
Yeah. You've got to surround yourself with expert, passionate people, but, a group of entrepreneurs is probably never going to establish a long-term business.
Yeah.
I think Apple is the classic example, isn't it?
It is.
Steve Jobs couldn't write script or whatever. What do they call that word? He couldn't write data or...
He couldn't write code.
He could not write code.
Couldn't write code, no, that's very
But,
true.
he was a marketeer and the best at it.
Yeah.
Because you've only got to look. Apple, the film studios, was it Pixar?
Was indeed. Disney, wasn't it?
So, there's you need that combination of people who can do the entrepreneurial stuff, but then you've got to convert that into operational
Absolutely.
Enterprise.
Couldn't agree more with you on that. And I think from my experience as going through my startup career, I think that's probably been where it's failed. And I think we don't talk enough about failures. There's probably been that aspect when there's
That's why we've surrounded you with enterprises.
No, I couldn't agree more, because you have too many people with the ideas, and then you're chopping and changing rather than staying focused in trying to deliver what you set out to do. And I think for me that's been a real lesson from the experience the board has and what you've gone on, the journey you've been on, because it is very much around that, which is this is a plan. Let's all accept how we're going to make that plan happen. And if after a period of time, how do we change that? But let's bring the relevant, people in that can help support that.
Yeah.
And I think that really has helped us from that perspective as well.
Yeah.
So Ian, how did Care Hires successfully, in your opinion, navigate the challenges posed the pandemic? Because if you recall, when we started out, the pandemic just kicked in.
Yeah.
We started the business and then COVID kicked in. So I still recall this because when you invested and the board invested in the early days, then 2 weeks later COVID kicked in and we were all locked down, and we really had to start thinking about how we're going to change the model and stuff. But we were very diligent in that process. What's your thoughts, and what was going through your mind? Because obviously you'd made the investment, you got involved in this, and then COVID kicked in.
Well, the people still needed caring.
Yeah.
It actually compounded the issue.
Yeah.
And actually probably brought the issues to more people's minds. How we're going to make sure the right people are in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
And what COVID sadly did, because obviously a lot of people suffered quite badly, particularly in the care homes in the early days, gave us the ability to really think, to stop, really consider, to plan the execution, and then we executed.
Yes, couldn't agree more with you on that.
So, Care Hires, really based on its SaaS platform, is a platform to put agencies and care homes together for the benefit of the carers.
Absolutely.
That works regardless.
Yeah.
And as we know, we can apply that same technology to other areas.
Absolutely. You've seen that.
But that's another day, isn't it?
That's another conversation.
Not for now.
Another day. No, we'll focus on this.
Because what we want to do is get the Care Hires business fully functional, fully operational.
Absolutely. But I think one thing that we've been able to demonstrate, that even startups can effectively utilize global talent, not just what we perceive as big corporations. What do you think is the key to making this kind of work?
Yeah. Again, it's just making sure you've got the right people in the right place at the right time. Not for Care Hires, but for the business.
For the business, absolutely.
And you've got to look at the resource that you can actually achieve.
Yeah.
So it's life's quite simple. Until you get to the doing phase. And then it becomes a bit more complex.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just combining the thinking into the planning to make sure the execution is good. And if the execution needs change, then what we do is review.
Absolutely.
And that is, not just Care Hires, it's every other business.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's really worked for us though, Ian, is with the UK team and the team in Asia, we now have a 24/7 round the clock support kind of aspect. People can pick the phone up, they get the support in an area where technology is still being adapted into a market that's probably technology a little bit new to.
Well, there's one thing for sure, isn't there? The people in the middle of our equation, which are the people who need care. That's 24 hours a day, isn't it?
That's very true.
So, you can pretend it's a good system working between 9 and 5, but what happens if?
Absolutely.
And in the care homes, if somebody calls in 15 minutes before the start of the shift, and you need that qualification in order to operate within your health and safety terms, that's where the platform comes in.
Couldn't agree more with you. We probably see a lot of pitch decks, we see a lot of plans, a lot of enthusiastic companies that come to you. What kind of characteristics do you look for in those types of opportunities? And because you probably know what challenges they're going to face, even with the plan they're presenting to you. So what is it that attracts you to these, not only making an investment, but getting involved in these types of startups?
I think it's the old adage again, people. But then it's the diligence behind. So, will it work? Is it capable of working? Actually, is it sustainable 15 years' time? So many businesses, you just look at them and you think, if this happens, that happens, and that happens, somebody's going to take that business out and you've not got a business. Back in my day, the way we used to record data from paper was on a thing called microfiche. And there were businesses which were microfiche businesses. You used to send them all your paperwork, you used to take a photograph of it, and you used to get a roll of film back with all your data on. Well, bit by bit, that obviously changed. And a business like Mattioli Woods with nearly 1,000 people now, we don't have any real files at all. All that data is in the cloud. It's all 100 times more secure than having paper and or microfiche. So you've got to move conceptually. You've got to think through. Will people in Care Hires, will people still need caring in 20 years' time?
And what?
There's only one answer to that, isn't there? And it's a yes.
So yes, it's absolutely.
There's no other option.
There is no other option. There is no other option.
So, and therefore you've got a business with longevity, so you can plan.
Absolutely.
You can make it operational without just, trying to bump it into something which it's not.
Absolutely. And I think I totally agree with you, but I think based on the conversation we've had, I think the importance also that I've learned from this journey is having a board that is there to support you, that's been through the experience of the mistakes that we're probably going to make and know the mistakes. But I think for both the founding team and the senior management team, it's very much been that support that's allowed us to have the growth we've had in the last couple of years, because it was very much an idea when we started out, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
We didn't really, it was, a bit of an idea on a piece of paper that you and I kind of put together, and I said, okay, this is what we want to do, to now being processing 1 million hours a month, with 9,000 workers on the platform. It's really starting to take shape now in some ways. So I think that message is very important as well in having the right
people.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
And it's sometimes you have to be not harsh, but you have to question well, don't you?
You do.
Particularly around endeavour. That's the only thing that drives me mad. If people just put a little bit more endeavour, then you can take on the world.
You can indeed.
So I'm probably politically not correct these days, because endeavour is number one, and that doesn't mean over endeavour.
No.
But really, if you're not able to work 8 hours a day, and you need to work 12, it's like the system's wrong. Change the system.
Correct.
People can only work 8 hours a day.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise
Absolutely.
it's taking over their lives.
It is, and I think that's
not fair.
That's not fair, and I think that's what CareHires as a platform has enabled. It's giving that efficiency piece back, and giving that ability to actually be organised and structured in what we provide.
Well, often these carers, because of where they come from, they don't know what they're doing tomorrow or the next day. Therefore, the platform helps them achieve that. And if we can give them extra shifts at short notice, which is operational between the care home and the agency, that's just brilliant.
It is. And just to finish up on that part as well, Ian, is the way the technology allows to make sure that the relevant worker type, the compliance is all checked, all those areas that make sure the person coming into your home has had all those pre-vetting kind of aspects completed. Couldn't agree more with you on that. Well, thank you very much, Ian. It's been great kind of speaking to you today on this, and look forward to the next.
And let's hopefully we'll get back and do this exactly the same in a year's time, and we will show you the results.
Absolutely.